I transcend. I want you to know I see who you are, and I'm letting go. You were everywhere, in my everything. I don't need you now. I was searching for answers, they were there all the time, but I just couldn't see them. In my heart I was blind. I believed in your story, now I know it wasn't true. And I see who I am now, and I know what to do. And I'm breathing in, and I'll start again. I want you to know I see who you are, and I'm letting go. You were everywhere, in my everything. I don't need you now. Just turn around and go. I can't do this anymore. I want you to know I see who you are, and I'm letting go. You were everywhere, in my everything. I don't need you now. I want you to know that I let you go. I want you to know I see who you are, and I'm letting go. You were everywhere, in my everything. I don't need you now. I want you to know I see who you are, and I'm letting go. I want you to know.
Greetings, Earthlings. Coming to you from the 10th dimension. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Wow, what an amazing day. We have not planned, just like always. It's day 14 of our daily live calls, day 3 of our rebrand to I Am Divinity. Just want to welcome you all in. Thank you for being here. We got some people coming in, so just give us a few minutes. Just like always, would love to know where you guys are coming in from. Yeah, I'm here. The massage chair just said I am here, and here I am. We're coming to you from planet Divinity. I don't even know where I am at this point. So super stoked to be here with you guys though. So just okay, we got Hong Kong in the house, Colorado Springs. Okay, David, I see you. Orlando, Florida, Sweden. Beautiful. Awesome. We got a special guest for you today. If you don't know, Mr. Don Smith. I can't even put him into words, so I'll give myself a little bit of time to process this. I've had such a crazy day, and I'll tell you where I'm at here in a moment. We got Mexico in the house, North Carolina. We got people from all over, so that's the point. We still have some people coming in, Will, so if you can make sure that you're admitting them. Whew. And if you're streaming from Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or one of the other channels that we're streaming from, put that below. We want to figure out where you guys are calling in from. And yeah, super excited to be here. Thank you for being here. We got, I don't know what CC, Corpus Christi. I should know that. I don't know. The UK. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Cool. Great to see you guys. Adamasu, I see you on the big screen. If you have your camera on, that's awesome. We'd love to see you guys' beautiful faces. Okay, cool. So we'll get started here in just a moment. So, it's interesting because we've been, for the last couple of, it's been 14 days, we've been literally live streaming every single night. We're here in the Philippines. It's about 11 p.m. right now. And when we first started this, in my human experience, I guess I wanted to kind of relate to people. And then a couple of days ago, Mr. Don came on. He said, "Hey, I'm going to tell you where I'm at." So I'm going to do the same thing. Yesterday, Jamie was talking about where he was at, and he kind of put me on the spot as well, talking about, "Hey, I see Sam kind of going in and out of the intellect." And today, if you don't know what the divine focus is, I went into my divine focus and I had one of the most, can't even explain to you guys, just an experience out of this world. If you've ever done acid, imagine taking like 10 tabs of acid times 10. And doesn't even encompass the feeling that I've had all day. It's literally ineffable. It's a feeling so great, so extreme that you can't even put it into words. And so, it's interesting because growing up in a household, I grew up Muslim, which is, I was Arab and I was Muslim. Is so much programming, so much heavy programming. And I was living in fear a lot of my life. Not only was there a lot of abuse, not only was there a lot of fear programming, it was just a very restricted household. I felt like I was in jail my whole life. I don't know if you guys can relate, but for me personally, that's how it felt. I was made to be afraid of literally everything. And so doing this program with Mr. Don Smith, it's not only given me a sense of freedom, but it's truly allowed me to step into a world of unknown, of curiosity, of wonder. And literally every single moment now is magical. I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but I really, at this point, want every single being to experience this level of consciousness, because this is actually our natural state. And I was talking to someone yesterday, and he was like a Bible thumper. He was trying to really, he thought I needed deliverance. I told him, "Deliver me then." And, it's interesting because he was coming at me from a very much a fear-based program. And if you don't, we talk about this throughout the streams, the ego is everything that's externally referenced and fear-based. And so when you get to this level of consciousness, you start to realize that life is so much more magical than what we've been taught, what we've been shown, right? There's a whole world that is outside of the human spectrum. And so here at IAMDIVINITY, we are making it our mission, whether we have one person with us or 1,000 or 10,000 or the whole world, to have true freedom within. And without, whether that's the financial aspect, whatever that means to you. And so I'm super excited to be here with you guys to show you what we're working on, what we've already created so far, and we're looking to take all the right people with us. And it's interesting because after the rebrand and after, you know, dropping that video a couple of days ago, it seems like all the right people are here. We're not having the complaints that we've had. We're not having the dense energy. So, you know, we just want to say thank you for being here. And we're excited to be here with you guys. We have Mr. Jamie here. We have Mr. Don here. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Will. We got Joelle and Kim that are working behind the camera, making this magic happen. So before I introduce Mr. Jamie, I just want to give you guys a quick overview if you don't know who he is. So Mr. Jamie, he started his journey so he started his journey like obviously like 30 something odd years ago when he got incarnated on this plane to put it into simple terms. But he got introduced to Mr. Don Smith I think about 5 years ago, and he ended up really taking the journey to figure out what was going on with him personally, what was keeping him stuck. You know, he's made millions of dollars, he's done all the personal development, you know, the shaman, the plant drugs, medicine, whatever you want to call them. And he knew that there was something different about Mr. Don. And so he one day ended up just messaging him and took the leap of faith, didn't ask any questions, just knew that there was a bright light about this man, and ended up going into this process, which you'll hear about a little bit later. And so we would not be here if it wasn't for him. And so, you know, I just want to thank Jamie for, you know, his courage, his openness, his honesty, and his willingness to go past the ego and to find something deeper. So with that being said, I want to welcome Mr. Jamie Divine to the call. Will you come up here, brother?
Is that me?
That's you.
Let's check it.
I know it's hard.
Day one for Mr. Sam. Day one out of the intellect. Welcome, sir. Welcome to
It's
the
good
team.
to be home.
Oh, am I supposed to? Okay, where's my? Okay, cool. Well, welcome everyone. Great to see many familiar faces. You're still with us after we married the divinity and divorced the ego. Yeah, much lighter over here. Hey, Powell, great to see you. So just so we can see who's with us today, throw a 1 in the chat if you have been through Don's process already. Just throw a 1 in the chat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you for counting. Would have been back in my mind in a second.
6, 7, 8, 9.
Was that 9? Okay. Awesome. So, as Sam was sharing, what we picked up from Don the other night, we're just going to share where we're at, and I trust that some of you will come along for that ride. Speaking of rides, we just had our 2-hour massage with 2 therapists each, and went to a whole other dimension, that's for sure. It took me, I don't even know how long, 5 to 10 minutes after we had gotten into the vehicle just to figure out where I actually was. And as we were driving, by the way, I don't recommend this. I don't recommend driving in this state, but very quickly I found out we need to delegate this driving thing because wow, like just I didn't know where I was, put it that way. Okay, I barely, I had to grip this steering wheel so hard just so I could feel my hands, so I knew to like keep it straight. And Don's laughing at me in the passenger seat, like just hold on so tight. And I don't know how fast I was going, but I'm sure if I did hit something, they wouldn't have even felt it. That's how slow I was going. So yeah, that may sound like a negative, not necessarily a selling point, but I'm just being honest. That's where I was at. That's where I'm at. Luckily, we have many people around us right now that are handling the 3D realm. And I remember going back to Kuala Lumpur a year and a half ago when I had my highest moment up until then, up until yesterday. And very quickly, and I told Don today that one of the major things for me was the ego convinced me that I needed to stay down so that I could assist Don, because it's just like, where's my things all the time. So and at the time I was frustrated. I'm like, man, like I don't understand how he could like not like remember this or whatever. And now I know. Now I know. So Don, I sincerely apologize for any shit that I gave you for losing your mind. So let's start there, because many of you are still in the mind. In fact, as Sam was sharing, it's like all that personal development was all about building the mind up, right? That mindset. And it was literally just being an addict to information and education and knowledge, so you could build this thing up. And instead of the ego, how it starts off is like a shot glass. But if you do like 2 decades of personal development like I did, then maybe you'll have like a like that, that's so this was my ego compared to the typical shot glass ego. And by the way, this is the max. Like, this is the max you can go. I definitely maxed out that system. No judgment, because as Marty shared yesterday, the image of the Trump balloon, right? So Trump had like a parade, and there was a Trump parade size balloon, and that was the size of Marty's ego. No, just kidding, Marty. The idea there is, no matter how big the glass is, you're still in a closed container, like a fishbowl, and you don't even know there's an entire ocean outside of that glass container. So it took me a while. It took Sam a while. I hadn't truly seen him out of it, other than a moment here and there, until today, to go beyond the intellect. And if you're familiar with the Dr. Hawkins consciousness scale, 0 to 1,000, you'll know that the intellect, which is also the ego, which is also the mind, maxes out at 400. 400 out of 1,000. I don't know about you, but if I got 40% on test in school, I think that would be a failing grade. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to come back and do this class all over again. Okay. So if you actually want to graduate, which I trust that you do because you're still here with us, then you have to go beyond the intellect and mind, because that's where all the systems are. That's where all the traditional systems are. I was watching a funny comedy video just before the stream here. It was this skit that this couple was going to marriage counseling, and the husband, and it was a joke, they were playing a joke on the counselor. The husband, the very next day, comes to the same counselor, but with a different wife. And he was testing the counselors. There was 4 of them, an older gentleman, a younger gentleman, a woman, and all, yeah, it was actually 3. So all 3 of them did it, like they recognized it, and then they would have the wife leave the room and see if they would say anything, and like each counselor said something. But then when the husband left the room, they didn't say anything to the wife, but granted, afterwards, the lady at least said, I can't continue doing this for you. Like, you got to make a choice here, bud. But my point is that they're going to this counseling, and how many maybe of you have experienced those types of systems? You're going to counseling, you're going to therapy, you're going to a psychiatrist, you're going to whatever, the coaches and the seminars and all of it. And you're talking about your problems for God knows how long, right? And year after year, it's like, because you're not getting anywhere, because the core root of the problem isn't intellectual, but all those systems are intellectual. Even the religion, as Sam touched on, you know, that fear-based, which is just ego, externally referenced. And I know my experience with the church was very much like that. It was very fear-based. I remember actually not too long ago, Don and I showed up in General Santos here in the Philippines. And we had a good friend that we were trusting would want to do the program, but he didn't. His dad's a pastor, okay? And so we go to this pastor's church, and we sit down in the pastor's office, little private meeting, Don, I, and the pastor. And the very first thing he hits us with, okay, just imagine Don and I sitting there in front of it must have been like a 60-year-old room, and I'm thinking, like, am I back in school here? Like, what's going on? And he looks at us, and very seriously, he goes, literally the first thing he said, other than like, hey, nice to meet you guys, sit down. And he goes, so you know you're going to hell, right? You remember that? And me and Don look at each other, and we just crack up. Like, how am I supposed to take this seriously? And then he continued to explain to us what we were going to hell, we were born sinners, and except if we just in that moment accepted Jesus into our hearts, we wouldn't go to hell. And now, listen, I'm not a closed person, so every time I've been in that situation, I go, absolutely, let's go, Jesus, come right in. Like, if Jesus is helping people, fucking come on in. I have no problem with that. But I just remember, like, all the times I went through the churches in the past before dealing with the root cause of the ego. And now I can see how even all those leaders that I met, and that's why I continued to search even outside of the churches. But I will give one church credit, and it actually was a very non-traditional church and a very non-traditional pastor. Actually, he didn't even have a church. Okay, so he would go living room to living room, all over the world. And his ministry, if you want to call it that, was called Awakening to Love. Okay, and we would go and have these living room meetings. And at the time, I was going to a very popular church in Vancouver, but again, I wasn't getting what I was looking for. I shared the story yesterday of how I went up to meet the pastor and his wife and went to give them a hug, and they literally turned like this and looked at me like I had 13,000 demons all around me, and I was gonna send them to hell if they even touched me. That was the reaction I got. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going very far here. So I ended up, a friend called me and said, hey, you really got to meet this guy. What was his name? I barely remembered my name before I came on here, to be honest. What is it? Oh, that wasn't David. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I remember Awakening to Love. So we go to the living room, and next thing you know, he's doing these like intense prayers of the Holy Spirit, right? And as Sam said, it was something like a deliverance, right? So they're getting delivered, and some people were like literally hitting the floor and like shaking around, and I'm watching this on day one, and I'm thinking, man, like what the hell did they have before this? Like, oh, I'm not feeling anything, but I'm open to it. And anyway, I keep going, and we got someone that let in there, and next thing you know, one of the times I do have this like Holy Spirit moment, right? Now, the challenge was it was externally referenced, meaning I didn't know at the time, I know now, that I created that Holy Spirit moment. But everyone in the church was giving it away to the Holy Spirit. It was external. So after that experience, I'm like waiting around for the Holy Spirit to come hit me again, and waiting around, right? And it just didn't hit me ever again. Whereas after I met Don, went through his process, I realized that no, I'm the one in charge here. I have the power to get there. And looking back, I realized I created that Holy Spirit moment, not anything outside of me. So Dan put it not too long ago, said that the church is maxed out at 500. And if I was to intuitively sense, that's where that non-traditional church is around the 500 mark, because it was very loving instead of fear-based, but it was still externally based. So anyway, that was a fun story. Don't know where that came from, but here we go. Where are we? Where are we, guys? Anyway, I'm going to bring Don on because Don's here. We don't know when he won't be here. He'll probably leave in the middle of the night, as he usually does, up to the mountain, and we won't hear from him for a couple days until he says, "Hey, I'm almost there." So I'll bring him on, and he'll share some developments of Divinity Mountain, which now I'm super excited to. We all have our bamboo houses, not huts, in line on Divinity Mountain. It's a good thing very few of us are at 1,000, because I don't know how much this mountain peak can handle, people wise. I figured maybe 4 or 5. Don's stretching it to like 50. So if so I sense that he, since I've been there, created some more land with some ET technology. I don't know. You'll have to ask him. But all I know is that the few of us that are in this room are definitely going to have a bamboo house, and we'll go from there. But thanks for being with us. I'll bring on Don, and I'm going to go back into my divine focus because I was barely able to put my clothes on. Oh, yes. Well, I think did I share with you before this the help them with the intellect thing, because they're all in the intellect thing. They're trying to understand, and they're doing the language stuff, and they're taking notes. And
yeah, I was going to say something along them.
Yeah. So just help them out there, because I know how that feels. It's like yeah, I got the divinity. It's like, nah, I don't feel shit. All right. See you guys.
Okay.
This is Don, if you don't know already. Is your name Don? I can't remember.
Yeah, it is the male one. Good evening, good night, good morning, whatever the time of day it is. I was just thinking as Jamie was talking and Sam, there was a few highlights for me that led me to grasp the impossible. So one of them was Sam had mentioned the divine focus, and I had created that from how to get into that divine focus, and it is this pure light energy, and it takes us completely out of the ego. And so one of the things that I did was, and I didn't know how many, I hadn't been counting or any of that kind of thing, but what I did was I all these stories of what you would refer to as a miracle, I had 104, and some of them had a ton inside them, but we'll just say 104. And what I did was I made cards with 4 inches by 6, and I put the header up and then the description of this miracle. And one of the ones that surprised me, it just happened and I did it and whatever. My sweetheart at the time, her name was Nikki, and she lived up in the wilderness. And when I say wilderness, like wilderness, okay? And took, what was it? 13 hours to get there from Vancouver to this where she lived. And she had a little runabout boat. It was like 16 feet, I think it was. And it just had a glass like this, but no roof or anything. And we were going one day, she was a tour guide. And so this late husband and wife that she had been talking to that day, we're movie buffs, and she said, yeah, I've got like 200 movies that you can get, or 2,000, I forget what it was. And so come on and this evening and we'll get them. So off we go, and we come around the corner, and we're talking about wilderness, like mountains here, and like whales and grizzly bears, like, yeah, like that's where we were. And came around the corner, and far off was this wall of rain starting to come. So she called up the lady that she was going to get the stick from with all the videos, movies. She said, don't come, like you can't see, I can't see my phone. So now, and this was this wall of rain was coming at Mach speed. I'm talking Mach speed. And once again, there was no roof on this boat. It was just 16 feet, and there it is. And so Nikki got on the call, and she called somebody or whatever. And each time something like that happened, it was getting closer and closer and closer. And finally, Nikki said, it was probably 10 feet away, when she said, oh my God, we're going to get drenched. I don't have any rain gear. Okay. By this time, it's 5 feet away from the nose of this boat. And I said, don't worry, Nikki, I got it covered. And went, boom, like that. Boom. The wall of rain stopped. And when I'm saying wall of rain, it was as high as you could see and as wide as you could see, and all you could see was pure rain. Pure rain. And within 3 minutes, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and there was 3 drops of water got on the windshield, none on Nikki and none on me. Huh. Wow, did I do that? What? And so it was those kind of experiences that, whether it was someone with cancer had gone in like 15 minutes, or somebody, you know, like a billionaire making $615 million in a 6-minute phone call with me, or the little boy with Rubinstein-Tabby syndrome that couldn't speak and couldn't speak, and I forget what the hell the other thing was. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, attention span, and 3-second attention span, and everything's gone. And so what I did was I put what I call miracles up on these cards, and the wall. It was bigger than what you see here, and they were all, and that's what I would go to sleep looking at and wake up looking at. That's what that was my divine focus. And I ended the day and started the day at remembering these staggering miracles that anybody in the human form would consider them miracles. I'm just telling you. And so that's how I started that divine focus. And it's like finishing off the day and starting the day, being in my light and recalling times, multiple times, that I had a miracle happen. And I didn't put all of these on there, but there was 68 times I changed the weather. 68. Like a forest fire in what do you call it? Interior of BC. You know, like I'd go golfing. I remember once it was raining. I'm going up to what's the town halfway to Whistler? Squamish. I was going to go play golf, and it was raining. I said, "Don't you dare rain on me." So I get out my clubs, and they said, "It's raining." I said, "I'm playing." So they let me on the course. I went all the way around the course, all 18 holes, and it was wherever I was, it wasn't raining. The whole 18 holes. And it's just crazy stories like that. It's like, wow, where is this power coming from? And how much can I access? And wow. And so that's what I've been doing. And I know this power that we have, and it's not Don Smith that has this power. It's we all have access to this power. We all have access to this power. Beyond crazy, like crazy, crazy, awesome things. And so there's that. And then there's another piece that I wanted to share, which is you and your intellect and trying to figure this out intellectually. So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories to just give you an idea of I was in your spot, I was in your position for a totally different thing at another time, struggling like this doesn't make any sense. This is crazy. Who's going to believe like all of that? And so what it was November 2012, and I remember Rosie had a ranch up in the interior, and we were up there at this time, and she went to bed early, and I found this online. It was Dr. Stephen Greer working with the extraterrestrials. I'm going to that. And anyway, Rosie got up in the morning. Said, what took you? Like you were so late coming to bed last night. I said, yeah, I was doing something. And yeah, she said, no. What were you doing, Dawn? I said, well, I signed up for something. What'd you sign up for? And I said, I'm going to Borrego Springs, California in November with Dr. Stephen Greer, see the extraterrestrials. Well, you're not doing that by yourself. Okay, Rosie, like you want to come? Hey, great, let's go. And so we went, and I remember we met Dr. Greer in the afternoon. So it started off at 2:00 in the afternoon, our very first day. And the one thing that I made sure of was Dr. Greer was sitting here, his doctor was sitting here, and I sat here. I never missed. Everybody else was chattering and getting their drinks and eating and all of that stuff. And I, just went straight to that chair and sat there every time. And so anyway, there were some pretty crazy things, like unbelievably crazy. You think some of the stuff we're talking about is crazy? Well, I'll tell you a couple, okay? One for sure. And what it was first of all, the very first night, they went out, it was out in the night, and Dr. Greer had this light and a few other things, and they called them ETs in and whatever. And everybody's, oh, there's that spaceship. Oh, look at that. And look at that. And I'm thinking, this is a bunch of bullshit. I don't see any of this. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And anyway, Rosie was in his eye. Okay, we paid for it. I shall stay. And so I mentioned this at another time, but there was this lady that could read energies and all of this kind of stuff. And she said Rosie used to use her for getting downloads and whatever. And so we were on a call one day, and she said, yeah, that going to see Dr. Greer, there's going to be a mountain behind where you and Rosie are staying. And it's best if you're going to, you need to do your divine focus on that mountain. No problem. I'm always, I'm up at 4:35 at the latest. And so I'm walking back. It's about half a mile to this mountain. And now the night before, I didn't see anything. Everybody was saying, I saw this and I saw that and this happened and all that. And I didn't see anything, nothing. So I'm walking back and get near the mountain base. And here's these 6 beings come. Yeah, ETs. And they said, we know who you are, and we want what you have. Oh, that's pretty interesting. And anyway, so we had this chat, and they took me. Remember, like it's like there's no spatial, like there's no time, there's none of this stuff. Okay, that the intellect uses. And I start walking with them, and they started asking me questions about the work I was doing with people. Because before that, what I did was I took all 8 billion through my process. All 8. I took so many each day, and I did that, well, every second day. So I did that. It took me about 3 or 4 months. And it ended up at this event that Rosie had signed up for, which was just 2 weeks before the ET thing with Dr. Greer. And so I didn't want to go, wasn't interested whatsoever. But she pleaded with me, so I went. And so this lady said, so she was there, this lady, and Rosie and I were sitting there for breakfast one day, and she said, yes, Don, this is, you need to, and I was working with, like 1 million, 5 million, 20 million, 100 million, 1 billion at a time, transforming, like the angels and archangels, put them all together, and I would work with them. Okay. So I'm guessing I'm throwing you off a little bit, but this is me. And so anyway, the next morning we were having breakfast, and this lady was there, and Rosie started telling her about what I was doing. I said, Rosie, will you shut up? Like I don't want people knowing what I'm doing. And anyway, she kept it, and this lady said, I have one message for you, Don. I said, oh yeah, what's that? You're going too slow. Holy, okay. Well, I guess I'm on the right track. And because by this time I was doing 1.5 to 2 billion at a time. And so there was only a couple of days left. And so that's what I did. I finished them all off. I took every single human through the process. Like I said, the angels and archangels would get them all in like a football stadium type thing, and I would take them through my process. And that's what we did. And so once again, I'm just sharing these things that are a little hard to believe. And especially when we're using this. And so anyway, so here's this crazy story, these things that were happening with the ETs. That first time, they brought me into this like a stadium. And they said, yeah, Don, like, we want to spend time with you and figure out what it is that you're doing. That is so powerful. Anyway, so we just kept 2 to 3 times a day. So whether it was first thing in the morning, whether it was in the afternoon, or was it at night, any one of those 3 and all 3. And so there was crazy things happening. But the one that, okay, I'm just going to say, I'm sure 98% of you will run away after you hear this. But anyway, I had this, they brought me in, if you've ever seen Happy Feet, and it's about this penguin, and there's this, like, the top of this mountain, and all you could see is these black and white penguins, like just forever, forever, forever. And here are these ETs. And anyway, what happened was I ended up, I could see the womb of the woman. It was like a plexiglass. And I had this major ejaculation that the sperm and the egg connected to all 8, like the billions of ETs. Okay. Now, once again, like this little bit difficult to stretch all that, but and so here's this clear plexiglass, and you can see with every single one of the females, the egg and the sperm connecting. Pretty crazy. Would you agree? And so 7 months later, Rosie and I are on our I Imagine boat over, we were halfway up from Victoria, and I took my bike for a ride into Victoria, and was coming back, and I come back through old growth forest, and I just sensed this beings around me, and there were the extraterrestrials, and they said, "Don, we've come to tell you something new." So what's that? I said, well, 2/3 of the ETs gave birth. And we have 1/3 ET, 1/3 divinity, and 1/3 human. And they all had Dawn in their name. So think about this crazy stuff. Anyway, and then 2 weeks later, they came and said the rest have all happened. And so I'm saying these to stretch you to get the hell out of your intellect. There's so much going on around us, and we have availability of. But we can't do it with our intellect. It won't work. And so anyway, you know, I'm constantly evolving. I never stop, never. I don't care how far I've come. I don't care what I've done. I don't care the results. It doesn't matter. I'm just, okay, what's the next? What's next? What's next? And so it's pretty remarkable what we have in store for you. And where I was even when I worked with Jamie like 4 years ago, or when I did my first transformation. And I'll tell you my first transformation. I was in Calgary, and there's a town 20 kilometers out. I forget what the name of it is. And anyway, I was just getting sober at the time. So that's like 44 years ago. And one of the things about the 12 steps is doing a thorough and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, which is step 4. And so the next thing is to tell somebody. So I made this appointment with this Father Paul out in Cochrane, Alberta. And so I went to see him. And once again, these are pivotal pieces for me. It may mean nothing to you. And what happened was I had 28 pages of all this. You know, I grew up strict Irish Catholic, so everything was a sin. All that would differ was the size of the sin. There was no such thing as not sinning today. Okay, you look at a woman, and it's like that's halfway between venial and mortal, Don. Oh, okay. So if I get 2 more of them, I'm into fully mortal, which goes right to hell, like all of the bullshit. Okay. I was an altar boy for 8 years, and yeah, it just went on and on and on. And everything, I was going to die, and I was going to hell. Nothing you can do about it. Okay. And anyway, I went to see this Father Paul. 28 pages, list of all of this stuff that I did and didn't do, and yeah, whatever. And I was so full of guilt and so full of shame. And I'm just reading this with my head down, just blah, 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 blah. And then I just started raising my head a bit as the shame started lifting. But I was waiting for something. I was waiting to hear the door knob turn. And for Father Paul to tell me to get the hell out of his office, that he had never heard such filth in his life. That's what I was waiting for, because that's what I grew up in. That's what I grew up in. Anyway, he stood up from his desk, came around, lifted me up, like just gave me a hug, said, "You're the most beautiful being that I've ever encountered in all my ministry." Well, for 3 months, I was brighter than that light. I was just all that guilt, all that shame, all that suffering, and all that thinking the worst and going to hell, gone. Absolutely gone. And I'm able to do that with people. Get them put this all in a bubble. All of their programs, all of their patterns, all of their beliefs, both negative and positive, all of who they think they are, because here's what we're looking for. Okay? There's a 98% chance that you're focused on shifting from negative beliefs of who you think you are to positive beliefs of who you think you are. That's what I know most of you are doing. Yet, our divinity is who we truly are. And we always were divine. We never were not divine. We just got it covered up with the mortal sins and the venial sins and this and that, and we did that, and that was bad, and this was good, and you need to do the punishment, and all of that. All of those ingrained bullshit stories. Okay? And I'm talking about the purity. You see, that purity that happened with me with Father Paul was there. It was just covered up. It was just covered up. That's it. So imagine clearing everything. Clearing every single thing. Gone in a heartbeat. Okay? And let's go back now to the speed, because everybody's having difficulty with the speed. But yet, I'm saying it's like, you tell me if you know someone with a phobia. You tell me if you have. Now you tell me what age you were when you got that phobia. And 90% are before the age of reason, many of them in the womb. Okay? Many of them in the womb. Now think about this. You got a phobia in the womb. 8 months, 7 months, 6 months, 9 months. This shock. Not even knowing what the shock was. Okay? And it took how long? Let me guess. Was it a second or a fraction of a second that happened? And yet you have so much difficulty thinking how something could be gone in a second, even though it was created by you in a second. So doesn't that make a little bit of sense? That if you created it in a second, it could be gone in a second because it's your system that did it. And all I do is trace all of those tentacles of all of those not good enoughs and not worthies and not loved and I'm evil and I'm bad and I need to be punished and I'm going to hell and like all of that bullshit. All of those lies. All of those lies. And what if they could be all put in a bubble, in a balloon? Every one of them. And what if all of your failures and all of them was from the belief that you were not good enough? And you got that belief you were not good enough at age 2, 1, in the womb, 3, 5. You know, there was a story told me the other day, and I couldn't even remember it. And I did it. Okay? So here this lady was telling me she put a video on her social media. I don't even know all this social media stuff. But anyway, and it was about an interaction we had. So apparently we were together at a function, and she said, I want you to come meet my mom. Okay? And she's got all of these illnesses and symptoms. She's been to the doctor for years. She's got pages and pages and pages and pages of illnesses and symptoms. I don't do like, no, please, Don, just come and see my mom. Just come and see her. Okay, let's go. Let's go. So I went with her. And we walk in, and there's music on. And she's 77 years of age, 77 years young. And just on that, before while I remember, my sweetheart's grandmother died 3 days ago. And she was 120. And I got to spend time with her a month ago. Got a picture taken with her. 120. The oldest centenarian that I've met in all of my travels. Anyway, coming back to the story. Here's the mother, 77. She was never without a physical symptom or a mental symptom or an emotional symptom, ever. And she never stopped going to the doctors, and they constantly gave her this and that and all of this. And none of it worked. So anyway, walk in, music playing. I come over and just pull her up onto the floor and start dancing. And all of a sudden she's like, oh my God. First time she laughed. And it turned out to be 71 years. Imagine not laughing for 71 years. And so we played more music and everything. And then finally I started asking her some questions. So at the ripe old age of 10, She was walking. Now think about this. You think about this for a second. This trauma and how intense it can be and how much it shows up in everything you're doing when it happens. So here's this lady. She is 10 years of age. She's holding on to her brother's hand, who is 6 years of age. And he dies on the road, dies with her holding him in her hand. Mom and dad come and blame her for killing their son. Now you tell me what that would have been like for 71 years carrying that guilt, that shame. When I left, she couldn't stop laughing. She couldn't stop laughing. And then her daughter proceeded to say in the video how all her symptoms left. Now, first of all, how cool is that? Like, seriously, how cool is that? And you can have that transformation. And all you need to do is show up with open-mindedness, willingness, honesty, and what's the other? Oh yeah, encourage. Got them. I made them up and I can't remember them. But that's the four you need. That's the four you need. And I'm telling you, getting all of the pieces together, it only takes a second to remove them. And then after that is your attachment. It's your attachment to suffering. It's attachment to misery. It's attachment to punishment. It's attachment to being a victim. And if you keep any of that, what you just did won't hold. And so you need to come in with, okay, I'm willing. You tell me what I have to do, Don, I'll do it. Okay? And I tell you, I love working with those. I love it. It's like, okay, here we go. Here we go. And to be able to put that all in a bubble, in a balloon, in a hot air balloon. Finding that one spot. I remember there's a lady that we all in this room know. She had a phobia of seaweed. So here you are, you're relying on your intellect. Let's do that for a second. You're relying on your intellect to guide you, protect you, all of this. Here she has a phobia of seaweed. Now tell me how terrifying that sounds. Any idea how terrifying that sounds? Seaweed. And the ego / phobia, and that's the most intense, by the way. That's the most intense of the ego, is phobias. Imagine following that blueprint of the ego saying you're going to die if you go near seaweed. Could you give me an idea of how much sense that makes? Anybody? Okay? So that's what I'm trying to do, is get you to look at how illogical your logic is. And then we do the magic. And the reason it takes a couple of hours is for you to get the idea of where this all happened and where it came from and all of that. And then you have enough courage to go where you need to go to lance that emotional boil. And it goes, and it's gone. And then the dying focus is holding it that strengthening of that neurocellular muscle to hold that divine light that you are, that got covered up with all the evil and the dark and the heaviness and the bad thing you did 416 lifetimes ago, all of that stuff. And you can have it all today. Not today, because it's almost midnight, but today. Okay? Imagine that. And all of your symptoms are stuck to that and associated to that. So there you have it. I trust that I've got you out of your thinking and saying, yeah, this certainly is in alignment with what I've been looking for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Yes, because it's up to you to be willing. And we start off with a questionnaire. That questionnaire pulls out your programs, pulls out your patterns. That's what it does. And then I can easily see what they are. Easy peasy. And then it's up to you to be willing to let them go with no attachment. So if you're coming to, oh gosh, I'm going to experiment. I'm just going to go and see what it's like. But I'm not going into the deep pool, end of the pool. I'm just staying in the wade pool. Yeah. That won't work. It's like kind of like that deep dive. They're like 125 feet in the air and he dives into a little pool. That's what this is. Yeah. So I trust that you want to find out who you truly are. Because I know who you truly are. And you're absolutely beautiful. And I want you to see that beauty. That's who you are. So enjoy the rest of your day. For those of you who are in the Philippines, enjoy the rest of your night, the little bit that's left. And go Chiefs, go.
Oh, yeah. And then God can change the weather, but he can't change his height. I don't think they heard that. It said Don can change the weather, but he can't change his height. So just give us a second. Wow. I'm I'm impressed. I think only one of you ran away. That's impressive. Wow, we definitely have the right group together. That's exciting. I want to share just one of my weather stories as I recalled when Don was sharing. Because I remember going through the first transformation and it was it was it the week after? No, I think it was a couple days in between. I don't know. But within the first week of my transformation, this guy is telling me that he changed the weather at that time 40 something times. And he never even said, like, you could too. But I'm like, fuck you, Don. I'm going to try to change the weather too. And like, I still, I could, of course, barely wrap my intellect at all around it. So I'm like, I got to see this shit for myself. Like, there's no way this guy stopped a wall of rain coming into a boat. Like, give me a break, right? But everything other than that, I was like, I knew it was true, so I had to see for myself. Anyway, so we were in Vancouver. For those of you in America, if you haven't been to Vancouver, just think Seattle as far as weather. So it was the summer and it's just constantly raining all the time. And you get like the token sunny day where you're like, oh wow, the sun. So I'm going up to visit Josh Willamette and his business partner Sloan, and they were up about 3 hours away from Vancouver. They hadn't come down to meet Don yet. They'd just been hearing from me over the phone, and I had to just go see them and share all this with them. So anyway, I just landed in Vancouver because at the time I was living in Mexico. So I thought, let's rent a car, and why don't we rent a convertible, right? So I go to the rental car companies, 3 of them. The first one said, no, we don't have any rental cars, but it's going to be raining this weekend anyway, so like don't bother wasting your money. I'm like, well, I really want a convertible, you know? So I go to the next rental car company, and they say the same thing. We don't have any convertibles, but it's raining. So okay, well, I kept going. So I get to this third one. Yeah, we actually just brought in a Camaro, bright orange, and it's convertible. But it's going to be raining this weekend, so honestly, like, don't recommend that you get it. I'm like, I'm gonna take my chances here. I'll take the convertible. So I'll go down, pick up the convertible. Sure enough, as I'm picking it up, pouring rain. And then I go pick up a friend and his girlfriend, my friend Riley, who was coming up with me. Still raining. It's about half an hour now. I'm driving the vehicle. And I pick him up. I'm like, yeah, I got this convertible. And he's like, yeah, too bad it's going to be raining all weekend. I'm like, yeah, we'll see. And so we get on the highway. We get outside of Vancouver. There's a town called Hope, just coming out of Chilliwack, past out of the lower mainland of Vancouver. And I said, just past Hope, it's going to stop raining. And they're laughing. They're like, whatever, dude, whatever. And I didn't even know what the fuck I was saying, to be honest. So whatever, let's go with it. So we go into Hope. It's still pouring rain. I'm like, okay. And we keep driving. Didn't think anything of it. And we pull over to use the restroom right after Hope, a town called Merritt. And sure enough, we come out of the bathroom and it's like just lightly raining. So I look at Riley, I say, let's throw the top down. And he's looking at me like, dude, you're crazy. Like, it's still sprinkling. Let's put the top down. We put the top down, get back on the highway. All of a sudden, the highway all the way up till Merritt was just drenched. Like, you know, you're spinning the tires almost because it was so wet, the roads. And we go up this hill past Merritt, and dry, completely dry, stops raining. Still, I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm not like, oh, I'm done now, I can change the weather. Still just driving. But we're keeping the top down. So we continue driving. It was about another 2 hours to Kelowna. We pull over, top's still down, rain still stopped. Get back in the vehicle after we stop, go up this mountain that Josh and Sloan were living in. So another half an hour. And all of a sudden there's lightning and there's thunder and there's clouds and no rain. And we still have the top down. We pull right up to where Josh was living. We park the car. We put the top back on. Still no rain. Soon as the top's on, we open the door and it just starts pouring. We had to run from like just the few meters that it was from the car to the house. Like run because we were getting soaked. And we get into the house and I look at Riley and Riley looks at me and we're like, whoa, like, did I do that? Absolutely crazy, blew me away. So come to find out I did. And I've done it a few more times after that. But yeah, and I would always go back to the changing the weather when the ego would come in and it was like, oh, you can't do that. I'm like, dude, we can change the weather, we can change that, you know? So it was a really great foundation and baseline. And I got that after within my first week of working with Don. So absolutely amazing. I'm gonna bring Sam on. He's got someone on the call. Before I do that, is there anyone on the call that's been through the process and wants to share something beyond the intellect amazing that's happened to them since then? There's about 9 of you that said you went through the process. Anyone want to come? Just unmute yourself, put your camera on. If you want to share anything that's happened to you since the process.
Well,
Really? No one? Okay. We got to call someone out then because they just don't want to be the first or anything. I got to take a look at the list who's on here. Okay. Is that your buddy, David? Okay. Go ahead.
Whew. Okay. I'm surprised, but not surprised. Still have 28 people on, so we got the right people here. Super happy to bring up this next person, but I want to share a couple of things. Interestingly enough, the guy that said that I needed to get delivered last night, he was saying like, oh, our natural state is one of sin. And I went and I told him our natural state is the supernatural state.
That's the ego's natural state.
And as you heard Don, and all of his stories and Jamie's stories, I don't yet have a story about changing the weather, but I do have a story about me working with this girl, right? Her name is Megan. I don't know if she's on. She's usually on the lives on Facebook. Her story is really interesting. Did the process with her. And she had been dealing with something where she actually had her spine was messed up for over 2 years. Her hip was dislocated, all of this crazy stuff. And did the process with her. Literally a few minutes after the process, she texted me. She's like, I do not know what happened, but my spine aligned and my hip literally popped back into place. And she had been dealing with this pain for over 2 years. And so, that's not that crazy compared to, the ET stories or the 78-year-old that Don worked with. But that's just one story. And I'll come with my own weather altering story here soon. Just give me a couple of days. But I want to just call up my buddy, David. We had been friends for, I don't even know at this point. It's been at least 5 years. And David's an amazing guy. He's done tons of meditation, tons of personal development, all this stuff. But he texted me I think it's this morning actually, of his testimonial that he just did with Dawn. And he hasn't worked with Dawn. He's never met Dawn. He's never done a Zoom call with Dawn. But he did go through the process that we have in the I Am Divinity portal. So I saw someone ask, what's the next step, Dawn? Well, the next step is go back to the person that actually invited you onto this call, get their link, and you're going to go to portal.incomation.com, where we'll be changing that domain soon because we're no longer Incomation. And you're going to log in and you're going to scroll down once you enter the consciousness and currency tab. And there's going to be a place where it says, I am Divinity. There's 3 videos. You're going to go through video 1, 2, and 3. And that's how you'll go through the I Am Divinity process. And just so you know, Don actually charges $10,000 just to work with him one-on-one. And you're going to get this absolutely free. February 1st, our membership we'll add the actual value. It might be 5,000, it might be 10,000. We don't know. So take advantage of the offer right now. But with that being said, I want to bring on David. David, are you still on the call?
Yes.
Awesome. So I know it hasn't even been 24 hours, but not coming from the intellect, I just want you to share with all these beautiful people part of your testimony, or the testimony, whatever you received from the process already.
All right, can everybody see me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I went through the process yesterday afternoon. Now there's 3 videos, and I watched the second one, which was Don's introduction to the consciousness and so on and so forth. I actually started to pass out, and I fell asleep like listening to it. But I know personally that's actually my soul, like knowing what's coming next, and it's preparing my body to be able to actually go through the process and really take in everything. Because I knew personally this was I needed this. This was something that I needed because I was looking for the puzzle piece, right? Then I woke up like an hour later and went through the 3rd video, which was the main actual process. And personally, like in the last couple weeks, so on and so forth, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in my life. Like I know I'm going through a transformation process, things are shifting around, so on and so forth. But usually when stuff like that's happening, I'll have like a knot in my back, my upper back. I'm actually a Qigong instructor. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Qigong, but it's the base form of Tai Chi. And if you have heard about acupuncture, basically it deals with your meridians where energy flows through in your body. And they say like certain meridian points, if you're having trouble in those areas, it means that there's something that's going on energetically or emotionally. So usually in my back, when there's a whole bunch of stuff that's about to happen, it starts to flare up, and it starts to hurt. I have to keep stretching, actually go to the gym, so on and so forth. So I'm pretty fit, aware of the body. And what was crazy is after the process, literally the flaring was gone, like completely gone. And matter of fact, I could actually feel my back was like readjusting over the years, because it's like I had a very, 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 very difficult childhood, super, super difficult. Um, and I'd always feel like there's pressure on me, like I'm basically carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. So it's like I'd always be kind of hunched like this, and I knew I had to correct my posture, but it'd be almost like a fight and a struggle just to hold my posture properly. And I noticed that literally throughout the whole entire afternoon, uh, my posture was on point. Like I was, yeah, I was shining. So I know there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's on its way too. Oh, I even woke up this morning to like old conversations I had from maybe 5 months ago with people that I was trying to hire. They're already all of a sudden, like literally this morning, I woke up to like a couple texts and so on and so forth. And even some clients are reaching out to me and stuff to get some business done. So out of the blue, just this morning. So it's already happening. So I said that I'm observing shifts that are going on. And actually I watched it again a second time before I went to sleep. So I can really like hold the information, because I noticed there's a chain reaction of let's say, how would I say it? I don't want to say traumas, but there's a chain like line of a weed that gets rooted from like your early childhood, as Don had mentioned, before the age of reasoning, right? And as I said, I had a very difficult childhood, and I was able to trace it back to that root. And I know it's already gone, but I want to just like make sure everything's clean. So I'm keeping on the process and going through the process. So I highly, 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 highly recommend that, even if you're doubting it, that's even more of a sign that you should go through it, because there's a block there that needs to be uprooted and removed so that you could be free and you can walk in your divine. So thank you, Sam. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Jamie. Love you guys. I love the team. Keep doing what you're doing. Glad to be a part of this mission.
Woo. Love you, bro. Yeah, man. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I definitely had to go through the process multiple times as well. Stuck up here. And yeah, it's interesting because you said something about like, traumas, having a very hard childhood and whatnot. And a lot of people, they don't really want to go through the process until they really feel like they had to, until, you probably heard of the quote, being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's where I was when I went through the process with Don. And actually my story is interesting because when we traced it back, I was actually 3 months of age. So there's really no way I would have ever been able to recall that. I was literally 3 months. And so, this process is beyond the intellect. It's not anything that you're going to hear in any Tony Robbins, Eric Worre. You're not going to hear about this. You're not going to experience this. And so I really recommend that if you've been asking or praying, and you created this, right? This is here for you. And so there's really, we say this every single night, there's really nothing else we could say. You've heard literally all of these stories. And so I highly encourage that you don't wait. David already, he said he went through it twice in one night. So as soon as we're done with this call, if you need to get on the onboarding, do that. Put some money in your piggy bank, cool. But make sure that you do the process right away. But what I'm going to do is, if you guys have any questions or any comments or whatever, we can open that up right now, unless you have anything else to add. Okay, Jamie's good. How can you open that up, please, Kim? Sam, how did you determine? Can you open that up? I can't. Oh.
Well, I wanted to just go do my divine focus, but I'll share a little bit more. So,
see what he says.
The
chat, just hit the chat. Open it up. Yeah.
So a few days ago, I shared what my first moment I recalled my first transformation.
Before you start, let me answer this question. So how do you determine that you were 3 months old? So that's a good question. So I actually didn't know I was 3 months old. I'll just tell you what happened. So at first, whenever Dawn took me through the process, I saw myself as a baby, and I was laying on my back and I started crying, and my dad actually hit me at 3 months of age. And so I told my mom, I was like, dude, this is crazy. Like, I think I imagined this. And I told my mom, like, hey mom, like, I saw this in my, in this process, blah, blah, like this crazy guy with the pink hair and pink nails, he took me through. And did this actually happen? And she looked at me in disbelief, and she's like, wait, how did you know that? I'm like, I told you, I just saw that. And she's like, you were 3 months. And I got really, really mad at your dad when that happened. And so that was a confirmation. And I was like, okay, he's actually not crazy. Like, he knows what he's talking about. And so, yeah, I mean, the mind remembers all. It records it all. It's literally stuck in the body, aka the subconscious mind. So that's essentially how I knew. Sorry to cut you off.
No, all good. I just want to go back to my room anyway. So, the intellect will definitely get in the way to stop you from recalling. So the main thing is to retrace the feeling. Retrace the feeling as far as you can go. And for me, when I did that the first time with Dawn, it landed on I was 8 years of age or so, 7, 8 years of age, when my mother sent me away from Mexico to go live with my uncle. So I thought, oh, that was the source of abandonment. And then come to find out in a second process, I was able to go all the way back into when I was 2 years of age. And as I retraced the feeling, I was able to see the picture of me at the living room window, like the front of the house window, waiting for my father to come home the night that he passed away. And I just recall waiting and waiting, and And he never did. And I still thought that was it. And yet on another, I retraced even further to the moment of conception in the womb. And again, for me, it was a picture and a feeling. I could see, like an out-of-body experience. I could see myself in the womb, just as a little Jamie seed, and just a little light bulb. And the intense shock that my mother sent to me when she realized she was pregnant was this intense fear, the intense darkness. And that was the moment that I created the ego that I chose to turn off my light, because I fully sensed that I was gonna die if I didn't. And so I encourage you to go as far back as you can, get to the root of it. The analogy I would use is that the first transformation for me was like shaking up the weeds, you know, in what Don would say for me was concrete, because I was a narcissist. The weed in the concrete. And by the third time going back into the womb, that's when like I was able to fully pull it. And mind you, even after all of that, the ego still got me, and I consciously chose to go out of my light. So at the end of the day, it is free will, but the intellect is going to stop you every way that it can. And then after you get to the root of it, it's going to try and get you back in it in any way that it can. And so the best defense is locking in that highest state with your divine focus. I don't care how long it takes. Like these days, I just want to do that more than I even want to do anything. That's where I'm at. But I remember when it was like, well, I got to do my 10 minutes. I just woke up. As you can imagine, that didn't get me very far, right? Because you got to be fully committed and fully surrender all that energy. So Don hasn't agreed to this yet, but on February 7th, it's my birthday, so I get to create the agreement, and Don doesn't have a choice. So February 7th, we're going to do the next live transformation for those of you that are here with us now, and for those that get into the community by then. As Sam said, February 1st, we're definitely charging everyone that comes in from now on. We've overextended our gift to you pioneers to make up for what happened in the past. And I trust that this priceless process will do that. But February 1st, we'll be charging, and February 7th, we're going to do a live transformation, right, Don? He said yes with his eyes. So that will be the next one. Maybe we can go somewhere cool like the Discovery Place again, and we'll just live stream from there. We'll do like a group here, so you can pick on us in person. Yeah. So that's it. I know for almost all of you, it's going beyond that intellect. So even more than coming on these calls and listening and taking notes and understanding, you have to move beyond the understanding. The only way you're going to do that is what is called a knowing. So you don't even have any questions anymore. It's just like an obvious knowing of what we're talking about. The only way you're going to get there is by sitting in your room or wherever. I don't care, middle of the garden, doesn't matter. Anywhere on earth, sit down, close your eyes, and recall your highest moment, whether it was in the middle of the transformation or if you have a crazy light moment from before that, recall that, sit in it for as long as you can every single day until you're coming on the call saying, I don't have any more questions because I know exactly what these crazy pink and purple aliens are talking about. Same time. Maybe we should probably shift the time. We'll decide on the time and we'll let you guys know. To satisfy the intellect, to make sure you know the known. Yeah, you embrace the unknown, that's for sure. Many of you can't even comprehend the feeling that we're talking about. It's the unknown. For many of you, it's gives you the heebie-jeebies, like the pastor that ran away. But yeah, more than showing up on these, it's like being with yourself, closing your eyes, and getting in that state over and over again, as many times as you need to do it, for as long as you need to do it, until you cross that bridge, and then you know exactly what we're talking about, and we don't have to do these anymore. Garrett says, so I can promote it to as many as possible. Yeah, please. That really should be your entrance fee for those of you that weren't charged to be part of the community, is bringing your inner circle. Like, that's seriously, what other gift can you give them than what we're sharing with you? So yeah, bring as many as possible. The tech guys will figure out how to have unlimited on the stream or whatever. I don't know. We'll get there. Is Will gonna, where does Will go? Is he gonna do the onboarding?
You just have a choice.
So Will's gonna do the onboarding in when is it? What time?
In 20 minutes.
Okay, in 20 minutes. Kim, do you have the link?
Yeah, I drop it.
Okay. I'll drop the link.
Wait, did he change it?
Below.
I'm not sure.
Well,
Got it.
oh, he's listening. Cool. Anyway, there's the onboarding. If you need help with the tech stuff, they'll help you out. See you next time. See you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Well, hit it with 10.
But I don't have the time to go through the process. But I can't feel the feeling because my head hurts. After hours blooper reel.
Wow, it's dead?
Yeah, you're saying good.
Oh, for those of you that are still listening, one of the biggest tricks of the ego after you go through the process is trying to understand what happened. The intellect will go on a crazy goose chase of trying to figure out what happened, and that's just the intellect taking you out. Adios, amigos.
All right, muchachos. We'll see you tomorrow.